So we're going to spend a few minutes going over the use of the tripod when you're doing a straight down raise or lower. In this case, the resultant force is going to be contained within the 3 legs, so we don't have to do a tie back with the tripod itself. And we're going to utilize a new piece of equipment, which is called a Harken winch. Comes from a sailing kind of background when they bring the mast, the sails up on the mast. So it's a device that allows you to get either a 15-to-1 or a 40-to-1 mechanical advantage just by turning the crank. So it's a very efficient device. Those who did confined space in the old days remember the old wire heavy-duty winch. This replaces that whole thing. So to do that, we have a couple pieces. We have the winch itself with a handle. It has a prusik already attached, which is the backup for that device. We're going to need 4 anchor straps, 2 short ones up on top, and then 2 off the bottom to kind of hold the Harken in plane. And then we will run the ropes through the double pulleys here. One thing we'll have to do is a little different than when the pulley or the tripod comes set up is we will pull this pin out, which is used to hold pulleys and other carabiners and stuff. The reason is it binds up on the Harken winch when we're pulling, so we just get that out of the way right off the bat. The other thing we're going to have to do is we have to have lower attachment points, and they have to be rated attachment points. So we're going to use these anchor plates. There's one that's always going to be in the red bag as a spare, and then we also have the one that's already in place. We're going to pull that off the top and set that down on the lower leg. So I'll have somebody help me real quick. Grab. We can just tip the tripod forward. Pull the pin. Probably easier done than said. And then we're going to set the legs back up. And we'll go through and we'll have to, so we have to pull the foot off. But we can just raise this up just enough that we can slide the sleeve over, put the leg back on, pin the foot, pin the anchor plate, and then we'll rinse and repeat on the other side. And you notice we have the hobbles in place around the 3 legs. They have to be in place. We may have to take a little bit of slack out of those to loosen them up to get these on. Okay, so now we're going to start to put the Harken in place. The most important thing to know is the direction of travel. So this rope guide, people call it the pigtail. The most important thing is remember this is always going to go towards the direction of the load. So this is how the plate's going to hang. So we'll use 2 adjustable straps. We'll set these both to the same length. And then we'll just hang the Harken. So we'll just start with the top part, it's easier to do. Again, you can kind of adjust it as you need be to get it level. Doesn't have to be perfectly level, but that's the idea. Down on that leg, and the slack. And if you need more, I can just release it up here on top. Okay. We're not going to tighten this up until we get all 4 of them in place. This one's a different configuration. These straps right now that we're using have come off the ladder trucks. These are the anchor bags that are with the litter on the side of the ladder truck. So you can go ahead and flip it inside out. There you go. Through. And again, as we start to tension these things up, the key is we just want to make sure that we don't have any carabiners side loaded. So we'll just take a look. Same thing, the normal touch check that we do in any high angle system. So this is the way the Harken is set up, ready to go. So this is what we call it's anchored in plane, and the ropes are going to come up through the system. One rope will be a belay rope. Second rope will come off the pulley right through the pigtail. That's the guide, and then we'll show you how to wrap that. Okay, so now we're going to hook the rope systems up. So the same as any two rope system, unlike the WMPDs, we will have a main line, a haul line, because we only have one Harken. And then the other line will be a belay line. So I'm just going to pass that through, I'll let Ben put that through. We want to make sure, if you can, that the load end of the rope goes through the side of the pulley that has the square corner on it, because that's the prusik minding portion of the pulley. And again, these Rock Exotica pulleys have a fully rated swivel. That's what's really nice about them, so they kind of adjust to the load. So we're going to get this started for the system, this will go down to the load. So in this case, this is going to be our kettlebell. We may have to steal a carabiner someplace.
What side of you, Steve?
Okay, we'll just tie it on. So that's going to be the main load. My Ben's hooking up our load. So hooking up the Harken winch, very simple device, but just that has a right and a wrong. So the best way to do it is just start with the rope going right into the pigtail and just wrap it around, and it's captured. And you'll do that 10 times upside down, and you go, oh, there you go. And then what happens is all the winch does is it wraps around the capstan at least 3 times. And then the last wrap, it goes outside the guide, and then it goes through this black tooth. Now, if Andy can get an angle, you can see that this black disc has teeth on the inside. This is the actual grabbing part. So you just pull that, so that's tight, and that's done. So, in the meantime, we'll get our second prusik. So the only backup we're going to have for this on the belay line is we're just going to put a prusik in place around this lot. How fast can you tie a prusik under pressure? Clean it up, we'll need another carabiner band. Should we find one for us? And again, ideally, we can hook into this bottom of the carabiner. It does mean you have a single point of failure with this carabiner, but on the tear adapter, kind of one of the things to remember is some of these holes have rounded edges. Those are the only holes that you can put carabiners into. Any hole that has a sharp edge is not a load bearing. I mean, it would hold it, but it's not designed for having a rope on it. But again, so that would allow us to do progress capture as the load comes up. That could be hooked for the victim also. So we're now basically, let Ben tie that on real quick. So we've got the Harken rigged up, we've got the safety, the belay line set up with the prusik. The recommended setup for the Harken winch is to also have a prusik attached to the Harken plate to the haul rope. So we're just going to pull a prusik that will be permanently attached to this. Get it all dressed to go to dinner. You do have to come down here a little ways. We hook it into this, from this practice, we found we've had to hook it down in this lower corner so the prusik doesn't get pulled up into the pulley itself. And the system's pretty much ready to rig. Again, it's kind of an ingenious device. I'm not sure how they do it, but I've seen the pictures. It only goes one direction. It only hauls in. So there's no backwards on it. So the handle gets inserted, locks in place to release it. You just push the little tab. And so there's two speeds. So when you turn it one direction, you see the rope's moving pretty fast. That's a 15-to-1 mechanical advantage. If that gets to be too much, all I have to do is go the opposite direction, and now you see how slow it's going. Now it's operating at a 40-to-1. So if you can't turn this with a load on, we need to take a close look at the load, because that's a lot of weight. So as it goes, again, if you have to stop, you can set your prussics. He can set his prusik here. We can kind of lock it in place. So you'll notice that there is no reverse on this. So you can't turn the handle backwards to make it go back down. So if you have to release this to take pressure off the haul rope, maybe you run into a bind and you have to let the load down a little bit, the only way to do that is you have to unwrap this from the tooth cam, but the capstan itself is a friction pulley. So just by doing that, I can control this load all day long. Of course, our prusiks are going to lock up. Easily with just one hand. And once we get to where we're going, we just wrap around that guide again, pull the rope in place, put the handle in, and we're right back to running again. So that's the beauty of the device. It's very simple. Now there is an option. If we're doing a really long, say up over a bank, where this can get pretty tiring, cranking all day, is we do have the mechanical advantage system. Mechanical advantage system. So this is just basically an electric drill. You can see, you can move really fast with this. I mean, if you go in reverse, you go real slow. So we would probably say make sure you're going in the direction of travel so it's fairly slow, because you could bring this load right up through the pulleys and off the top of the tripod, I guess. So, but you can see how fast that. So if you're worried about cranking for 2 hours, bringing something over a bank, this drill will take care of it. The thing is, this, if it's set up with the 3 wraps, the guide pulley, and on that place, this manages itself. This will just exit into a nice smooth pile. It doesn't put any spins in the rope or anything. So it's a really cool system to work with. And if you're in a situation where we're working in Mountain Rescue Aspen, one of the nice things is they use these same systems. So they're very familiar with the Harken Winch. They use a different model of the tripod, but the concepts are still the same. So there you go.